Okay, so I'm recording. So Brindley, I just want to thank you for taking the time to speak with me and speak with this group of ladies. I added you to the Facebook group so you know a little bit about that. The women in this group are kind of entrepreneurs, and not kind of, we are all entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
right? And women that want to move ahead in whatever their respective businesses are. A couple people up here are some real estate investors. One is about to join Keller Williams in Connecticut. I'm very excited for her. One is joining our team in North Carolina. Very excited for her. But I'm just really wanted to have you come on because when you did that training and the productivity stuff that you shared with me really just opened my eyes because we manage so much.
Yeah.
And you started a business that helps people leverage different things so that they can be more productive in their businesses. So I wanted to have you come talk to the ladies because I know that's a challenge for us to find that balance where we're doing what we need to do for our families, but also making sure we're doing what we need to do in business, right? So I just want to know, I know you said you had a background story, a little bit about you and your business and how you started your business and how you became this productivity guru.
Yeah. So one of my biggest mentors, Gary Keller, says that you're 5 years from wherever you want to be. And last year was my 5th year from one of the biggest turning points in my life. And I like to share the story, especially with a group like this, because where I've come in the last 5 years is you wouldn't recognize the girl that I was 5 years ago. So 6 years ago, this past week, I was in one of the darkest places of my life. I had done a lot of great things. I had gone to college. I had lived in Manhattan. I had worked on Wall Street. I had just done a lot of amazing things in my life. And at 32, I was back home in a relationship with a man that I didn't love. He made sure the bills were paid and I made sure he was clothed and fed. And I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. And I had gotten to a point where I was drinking a lot because I didn't want to feel. And I had gotten to the point that it was so bad that I would wake up in the mornings and I would start drinking just because I didn't want to feel. I didn't want to be where I was. And I actually went to my first family reunion, which is Keller Williams' annual conference. And I came back, or I went to that conference, and all I heard at that conference was God, family, business, because that's what Keller Williams' major values are. Mm-hmm. And those were the 3 things that were missing in my life on a really large scale. And this God-sized hole that I had, that I wanted this God, family, business, I was filling with alcohol because I didn't want to feel. Mm-hmm. So I came home from family reunion and I cried out to God and I said, I don't want to live, but I don't want to die. And I don't know how to get out of where I am. And unfortunately, the change didn't happen overnight. I would go on a few more months living the lifestyle that I had been living. And Memorial Day weekend of 2012, I went to a Mary Kay party with a few realtors, and I had no idea that I had been drinking all day. And on my way home, I made a U-turn in front of a motorcycle. And for 2 days, I thought he was dead, and I was going to prison for a really long time. I got out of jail the next morning and I called the police station to find out where my car was, and they told me it was being held in investigation of a vehicular homicide. And I looked at my mom on the couch that morning, who was sitting, not even 2 feet away, and I looked at her and I said, Mom, what am I going to do if I killed somebody? And my whole life changed that day. The man didn't die, thank goodness, and I believe that it's only by the grace of God that he didn't die, and that God believed that I would be more useful out here than I would be behind bars. And everything changed that day. I've been sober now for 6 years. I left the man that I was in a relationship with, and I had to literally start my life over. My family didn't want to have anything to do with me. There was no bailing me out at this point. There was no money. I had to become fully self-supporting for the first time in my life. And so the job that I had was with the Keller Williams office, working in as a director of agent services, and my broker had to fire me because I was facing 2 felonies, DUI with serious bodily injury, and fleeing the scene of an accident with serious bodily injury because I was in the middle of a blackout and I took off. And it was a really dark time, and I had a lot of support. And the hardest part was knocking over that first domino, right? It was making that decision that I didn't want to live the life that I was living anymore. I didn't want to be the girl that I had been. I didn't want to be self-centered and miserable and lack confidence and constantly be trying to fill this hole of not being able to feel good about myself. And quite honestly, it was all about loving me, right? I didn't love myself. And so a few agents in the office hired me to be their virtual assistant. So I would literally strap my laptop to the back of my bike because I couldn't drive, and I would bike 60 miles a day to get work so that I could pay my rent. I would bike from agent to agent, just doing their database, doing marketing management. And I eventually taught myself contract to close. So in real estate, that's everything that happens after you go under contract to close. And in 3.5 years, I built that from just myself to a team of 6, doing about 100 transactions a month. And for those of you that are not in real estate, there are teams, a really good team does between 100 and 200 units a year. And our team was doing that a month in transactions. And I really spent that first 4 years really working on me, staying sober, sharing my story, helping other women overcome their difficulties, overcome what they were challenged with, and just building business and becoming the woman that God always intended me to be. Mm-hmm. And when I started becoming that woman, opportunities started showing up. And I hated the business because I started it out of desperation. And it wasn't where my passion was anymore. So I took my company and I actually sold it to 3 of my employees, who 2 were single moms, and one would never own a business in her life if she wasn't pushed to do it. And I was able to help these 3 women become entrepreneurs and business owners. And through that process, I became very passionate about it. And so that's something now that I speak about, I coach to, is helping individuals that would never in a million years think that they could own a business and think and run like a business. So that's what brings me to here today. And primarily what I focus on as far as my knowledge is 411 time management, goal setting, productivity, and customer service. So tonight we're going to talk about productivity and goal setting and how we can help you guys start to balance your time a little bit better.
Listen.
And by the way, she's hearing this for the first time.
Yeah, I'm like, listen, when you talk about managing your time better, that's something that I think we never arrive at. It's like, I thought I was doing well, and then you find out there's a greater level of productivity. You want your goals to be realistic, to have deadlines, and I think these are things that when you go into business, you spend the first 2 years kind of going in circles trying to figure this stuff out. But we don't have that kind of time. Yeah. We need to get in and get it right and get to the point where we're doing good business in way less than 2 years. So that's kind of one of the reasons that I wanted to have you here, because these women all have great business ideas, great business plan, but there's also a level of productivity that I know that maybe even if we won't even admit to ourselves, in the beginning of every business you're lacking, and then we have to kind of move forward from that point and get empowered so we can do better.
Yeah. So the first thing I always tell is the story of the big rocks, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a classroom and there's a teacher, and he brings in a big jar, and he takes the jar and he pours a bunch of big rocks into the jar. Mm-hmm. And he asks the classroom, is the jar full? And the classroom says, yes, it's full of big rocks. Look at it. And so then he takes gravel and he pours gravel into the jar, and the gravel falls amongst the big rocks. And he fills it up to the top with gravel, and he asks the class, is it full now? And the class says, they hesitate, and they say, well, yeah, it's full of big rocks and gravel. And then he takes sand and he pours sand into the big jar, and the sand falls in between the gravel and the big rocks, and he says, is it full now? And nobody says anything. Then he takes water and he pours water into the jar, and the water fills all the way up to the top, and he says, the jar's now full. Now, if he had put the water, the sand, and the big rocks in the jar first, would the big rocks have fit? No, right? So the moral of the story is that first we have to identify what our big rocks are in our world, that at no matter what, we tackle our big rocks first. And as long as we identify what the big rocks are in our business life and in our personal life, we'll always feel like we're accomplishing. Have you ever had those days and those weeks where you've gotten a lot done and you're exhausted, but you look back and you feel like you've done nothing?
Yes.
That's because you're living in the gravel, the sand, and the water. You're not living amongst the big rocks, right? So what we do is we go on to the 80-20 principle, and the 80-20 principle is based on the Pareto principle, and it's that 20% of our actions yield 80% of our results, right? So basically what Pareto did, he was an economist back in Italy in I think it was the 15th or 20th century. I'll probably screw this up. And it doesn't really matter. Oh, it was 1906. And he realized that the majority of the wealth of his village came from 20% of the population, right? So 80% of the results were coming from 20% of the action. So what we have to do is that 20% is our big rocks. We have to identify first what our 20% is. And your 20% is usually about 4 or 5 big things in your world. And if you're running multiple businesses, or you're running what I call, your second business for a lot of you, which is your home, right? I think I look at that as another business. You have to identify what the big rocks are for the business and what the big rocks are for the home or the second business. For those of you that are still working and trying to get into real estate, or are getting into real estate, because there is no try, you want to identify what are the 20% for the full-time role and what is the 20% for real estate. Does that make sense?
Or any business for that.
Or any business. Right. So what I recommend doing is taking a piece of paper and on one side writing 80% and then drawing a line down the middle, and on the right side 20%. So you have 80% here and you have 20% here. Now, the 20% are going to be the must-do items that are either going to generate us the most income or that are going to move us closer to our goal. Checking email is not a 20% item. Is it? No, right? For those of you that are in real estate, your 20% will look like lead generation, lead follow-up, going on appointments, scripts and role play, negotiating contracts, right? For myself, I have a recruiting and a coaching company. So my 20% are my coaching clients, my recruiting division, my training division. My 20% is everything else. This webinar is not my 20%. This is my 80%, right? Do you notice when it's scheduled? It's scheduled at the end of the day, because I never do my 80% at the expense of my 20%. My 20% always has to be done first. Am I making sense? Any questions?
If you guys have any questions, just raise your hand. I just didn't want a lot of background noise, so I turned it down. But I like how you said the 20%, the 80% is never done at the expense of the 20%.
The 20% always has to be done first.
Okay.
Right? So let me take this home, right? So at home, we have kids. The kids have to be picked up at school, right? The kids have to be fed. I mean, sometimes we want to leave them at school. And, right? That's 20%. Like the 20% is the kids have to be fed every day. They have to be bathed, right? They have to do their homework. They have to eat. Laundry is not 20%, is it?
No.
No. Laundry is 80%. Now, if you haven't done laundry for 3 weeks, is it quickly going to become your 20%? Right? So your 80% at some point will most likely move up to the 20% when it has to be done. I don't chase my 80%. My 80% chases me.
That's good.
The only thing I chase is my 20%, because that's what's going to make me the most money, save me the most time, and get me closest to my goal.
That's good. Shannon has a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Shannon.
Hi, Brindley. Thank you so much. First, I want to thank you for your powerful testimony. That was awesome.
Oh, thank you, Shannon.
So for the 20 thing here, so I work full-time, but also a home business. And so I'm looking at, you said the 20% of those things which will generate income.
Mm-hmm.
So where does that full-time job fit in?
So what is your full-time job?
So I work for DC government.
Okay, so you would actually have two 80-20 lists.
Oh, okay.
And this will make more sense as we go on into the next phase, Shannon, for you. And that's, so for every business or every area of your life, you're going to have a different list, right? So for instance, I run a recruiting and training company, and I have a coaching company through MAPS, right? So I have an 80-20 for my recruiting and training company, and I have an 80-20 for my coaching division. If you have a full-time job and are trying to get into real estate and you're a mom, you're going to have 3 80-20 lists. You're going to have one for being a mom, one for your full-time job, and one for real estate. So that when you're in your zone of mom, you know what you need to be doing first and what's most important. When you're at your full-time job, you know in that full-time job what you need to tackle first and get that out of the way before you go into your 80%. Because we're working on time management for every area of your life. So at the government job, Shannon, you will have an 80-20. So what's the 20% of your job that's going to make you the most productive?
Got you. Okay.
Right?
That makes sense.
What are those big tasks? So it's usually about 4 or 5 things. The big things, that umbrella, what the main point of your role is.
Gotcha.
And then the 80%, the 80% is all that other junk. Email, voicemail, all those distraction items that are time suckers, time bandits.
Thank you.
Is that helpful? Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Any other questions on that? Oh, you're muted.
I said, I don't think so, but that makes perfect sense.
Doesn't it? Yep.
Okay, so my next question for you is, I got these 80-20s.
Mm-hmm.
One for home. I have 2 or 3 different businesses that are different.
Mm-hmm.
How do I decide how much time I spend on my 80, how much time I spend on my 20, when there's only 24 hours in the day and I still need to sleep? Just let me know.
Okay, so we're gonna go there. We're gonna go there in just a second. I want to show y'all something first, because why do we talk about all this? May I share my screen with you?
Yes, please.
So can everybody see this?
Yeah.
Nod your heads, or does that let me know? Okay. So what we want to always be doing is we call ourselves entrepreneurs, right? And we always want to be moving from what's called E to P. So if you notice here, entrepreneurial, which is what most of us are doing what comes naturally. We have drive, we have enthusiasm, we have intuition, we have natural behavior, and we have spontaneity. And how this entrepreneur roller coaster looks, and some of you might have seen that meme on Facebook, is that we come up, right? And we hit the ceiling and we're on the upswing and we're like, yes, we're fired up and everything's going great and we've got it all mastered. And then something happens and we start going down into disappointment and we feel like we can't do it. There's no way I can get all this done. I've got a full-time job. The kids are crazy. Like, I just don't know how I can do it. And we resign and we say, I give up. We're not going to do this. Then something happens and we start to feel greener pastures and we go back up, right? And we start going back up and then all of a sudden we hit that ceiling and something happens and we go right back down. And that whole cycle, excuse me, starts over and over and over again. We can never break that ceiling of achievement. And the reason is that we're not being purposeful. We're being entrepreneurial. And being purposeful looks like it's doing what comes unnatural to us. Being purposeful is having focus, strategic options, models, systems, and accountability. It's having systems around your time that are going to help you manage your time, your time not manage you. It's moving from E, entrepreneurial, to purposeful. Does that make sense?
And a lot of sense.
Huh? What was that?
A lot of sense.
So we constantly, excuse me, I'm so sorry, I swallowed down the wrong pipe. We constantly have to be asking ourselves, am I in entrepreneurial right now or am I in purposeful? Am I focused? And am I working on systems and models to make my life easier? Or am I stuck on the roller coaster of crazy, going up and down and up and down and up and down with no purpose, no focus, and no structure? And by identifying our 80-20, we're starting to put structure and model in our lives. And going back to your question, is everybody good with this? Does everybody see this? I know somebody asked me to put it back up on the screen.
Do you mind if I share this in the group?
Not at all.
Okay.
It's on Google.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you can share anything I show today because it's all on Google. Except my calendar. I would just ask that my calendar not get shared.
Okay.
So now what we're starting to do is we're starting to move into purposeful, and that's why we identify our 80-20. And going back to your original question, how much time do I dedicate to my 20 versus my 80 is all up to how long it's going to take you to do your 20. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that now moves us into setting goals. Right? So we now have to set our goals around our 80-20. So in order to know what we need to focus and how much time we need to focus it on, we need to know what our goals are. And a goal that's not written down is just a dream. So if we don't have our goals written down and we don't know where we're going to go, how can we have a plan to get there? How can we manage our calendar and manage our days to get us closer to our goal if we don't even know what our goal is? For some of us, our goal might be to get out of, our full-time job so we can go into real estate full-time. For some of us, it just might be being a great mom and being able to manage, home life in our company. We have to determine what that looks like to us. Now, when I set goals, I start with my someday goal. My someday goal is something way out there that someday I want to accomplish this, and I'll share it with you. Someday I want to be the female version of Tony Robbins or John Maxwell. So once I identified that that was my someday goal, I was then able to say, okay, if that's my someday goal, where do I need to be in 5 years? Well, in 5 years, I need to be speaking in front of crowds that are 1,000 or more. In 3 years, I need to be speaking in front of crowds of 500 or more. In 1 year, I need to be speaking in crowds of 100 to 150 or more. Now, it doesn't seem that daunting, does it?
Wow.
Because I started big and I went backwards. So now, if that's my goal is to be able to speak in front of 100 and 150 people, then I have to identify 80%, my 80-20 that's going to help me get closer to that goal. Now, some of you are sitting here going, I need 80 hours in a day. Like, there's no way that I can get all of this done. And I will tell you that I could probably, if I spent a 24-hour period with you, it's probably because you're spending the majority of your time in your 80%. And you're not tackling your 20% first.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. This is a mindset shift. I'm loving it.
Yeah. So this doesn't happen overnight. It really doesn't. So when we set goals, one more thing on goals before we go into how we're going to block that 80-20 and how I'm going to solve all your problems and be your miracle. I'm just kidding. I'm not a magic little pill. So the next thing I want to share with you is how we have to create goals. And our goals have got to be SMART goals. And I'm going to share this with you, and you can share this in the group as well. When you make your goals, and when we talk about goals, they need to be what are called SMART goals. And SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable. Oh, am I sharing? Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So when I say specific, what do you want to do? What is it specifically that you want to do? When I say measurable, what's the metric that you're going to put on it to know that you've done it? When I say achievable or action driven, what do you have to do in order to accomplish it? What's the action that you have to take in order to accomplish the goal? When I say realistic, realistic means that you have a 50% chance of hitting it and 50% chance of not hitting it. So we're not putting it so far out there that it's unrealistic, but we're not making it so easy that we hit it and we're already past it. So we want to ask ourselves, do I have a 50-50 chance of hitting this goal? And that's going to put us somewhere right in the middle that's going to help us feel like we've got a solid goal that's going to stretch us, and challenge us. And then lastly, we want to make it timely. We want to put a deadline on it. When do you want to accomplish this by? So for those of you that are trying to make the switch out of full-time, have you really committed to when you want to be out of your full-time job and into real estate? And then have you fully committed what that looks like? How many homes do you need to sell to get there? Is that realistic? Is it achievable? What action do you have to take to do that? And is it specific? So for instance, I sell 25 homes to be full-time in real estate by September 1st. That's a smart goal. Just saying sell some houses to go into real estate is not a smart goal. That's just kind of like, if I get there, I get there. And if I don't, I don't. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So any questions on goals or any of that before we go into time management? Okay, so are we ready to have our minds blown a little bit?
Yeah, we're listening intently.
Okay. Is there any comments or questions? I want to make sure that I'm not missing anybody. You keeping an eye on that for me?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to go to this week just because this is more realistic of to what it looks like. Okay, this isn't full yet, and okay, this week, it's been a little bit crazy, so I'm going to show you guys a couple things on my calendar so that you can kind of see how I manage my day and how I've mastered productivity. So this is my calendar. Oh, you can't see it. Where'd it go? Hold on 1 second for me. Okay, so this is my calendar for next week. Can everybody see that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you notice, I have everything color-coded and I have everything time blocked. Now, when I first did my calendar, my 20% is my coaching calls and my team, and my personal time. So the first thing that I always block is my personal time. So this is mine. I don't have kids. I'm not married. I'm married to my job and my team and my 2 little puppies. And so a lot of mine is rise and shine, coffee and walk Maggie, hit the gym, get ready, and then I start my day. I have this blocked. I don't work past 6:30 on most nights because that's my time. Now, this is a week from now, so my Thursdays and Fridays are open for reschedules, one-off calls that I might have with clients. I have some MAPS calls, and that quickly changes. If you look at my calendar, it starts to fill up. So these are a few weeks ago. Now, the first thing that I always do is I block my 20%. So I use this as an example, as a generic example for a realtor. So this might be what a realtor's calendar would look like. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you're not a realtor, you're going to take the items that you identified as your 20% and you're going to substitute them for what's on this calendar. Now, if you notice, their 20% is scripts and role play, lead generation, negotiate contracts, go on appointments, and that's their 5, right? So it's lead generation, lead follow-up, scripts and role play, negotiate contracts, and go on appointments. So if you notice, they've gone ahead and they've blocked out all of those items on their calendar. So the first thing you want to do is go in and block your 20% as recurring appointments on your calendar. So if you go in here and you open up lead generation, it's repeated. We just set up a recurring task. So I go ahead and map out what my day looks like. Now, if you notice, their personal items in the morning are blocked, and then in the afternoon, you'll see dinner with family, read to the kids before bed, and then time with my spouse. Then you go in every morning or every week and you adjust it according to what you need to. Now, if you notice, everything on my calendar and on this calendar is color-coded. So if you look at my calendar, I know that everything in green is personal, everything in coral or pink is my coaching clients, everything in blue is my team. If it's in yellow, it's been proposed as a time for an appointment and it's not confirmed. If it's in red, which you'll see some of those Here, that means that it's a call with someone and I have to stop what I'm doing because they're expecting me to call them. So what starts to happen is that I don't even need to know what's on my calendar specifically. I just can know by color that, okay, I'm going to be coaching and I need to be prepared to coach. Or that's going to be a team meeting and I need to be prepared to show up for my team. So the rules of time blocking is first identify that 20%, then go to your calendar and map out how long you need for each item on your 20%. Always marking your personal time first. So block out the personal time on your calendar first, then block your 20%. Now, you'll notice from 2:30 to 3:30 on this calendar, it says 80% distractions. Do you notice that I've gone ahead and already blocked time to work on the 80%? Are those distraction things that come up throughout the day that take me off of my 20%? And the reason that you do that is because is it easier to find time or fill time?
Fill time.
It's easier to fill time. Now, some of you are thinking, well, I may not negotiate contracts for an hour and a half every day. I may not lead, well, you better be lead generating in real estate for 3 hours. Or for those of you that are not in real estate, my days don't look the same. That's okay. The first thing you're doing is laying the foundation. Then I'm going to come in every morning and I'm going to say, okay, I don't have to negotiate contracts today for a whole hour. I actually only need a half hour. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adjust that. And then now what I've done is I just created white space on my calendar. I've now just given myself time back instead of feeling like time is always being taken away from me.
So my question is,
yeah.
And because when I talked to you before, the calendar thing is very clear, very concise, very easy to understand. What happens when your appointments go over? Like you have coaching calls, you have them back to back to back. You tell me every coaching call stops at the time it's supposed to stop.
Yep.
Every call.
You know why?
Help me understand it.
Because I've set the expectation. I've set the expectation with my clients that in order to serve them all at the highest level, they have 30 minutes. If we feel we need an additional call, we'll set up an additional call for a later time.
Okay. All right.
Because who's in control of my calendar?
You are.
And the minute that I let them go out of time, who becomes in control of my calendar?
They do.
So I tell this story. I was in Atlanta a couple months ago, and I was doing coaching from an office there because I had been speaking. And my girlfriend was in the office, and she said, hey, if you've got some time, I'd like to pick your brain for a few minutes. And so I had a cancellation on one of my calls because those people do cancel, which is amazing because then guess what? It creates white space, and I love white space. And white space becomes your friend. Like it becomes a game. Like, where am I going to get white space today? And now like you're feeling like the feeling when you get time back is amazing. And so they canceled, and I walked into her office and I said, I have 15 minutes before I need to be on my next call. Will that be enough time for you? And she stopped me and she said, Brindley, I just want to tell you thank you. She goes, a lot of people may think that you coming in and saying something like that is rude. And she said, actually, what it shows me is that you respect my time. You're giving me the opportunity to say yes or no, it's not enough time, and to reschedule. And you've set the expectation that you're going to have to be out of here in 15 minutes. Rather than coming in and me thinking I have a half hour and you bailing at 15 minutes. And we're going to go into a little bit of, key tips for productivity and being able to stay true to your calendar and your time block. So with time, go ahead.
Hold on, let me unmute her. Okay, go ahead too.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm very overwhelmed.
I'm sure you are.
Yeah, this whole concept is overwhelming. So I have a calendar, and I dotted T's across, but stuff always runs over or something doesn't get done. And my 80% just happens to be a lot of stuff that happens after like work hours.
Okay.
Or like after maybe 3 or 4. So the question is this stuff is working down to
She's breaking up a little bit. I can't
like,
hear
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me a little better?
Yeah, that's a little bit better.
So the 80% that I see on the calendar, can you break it up? Like, is it just work related 80%?
So what you're going to do first is you're just going to lay the foundation, right? And then every day is going to look different. So you might come in here, Shatala, and you might say, okay, I don't have 3 hours of appointments this day. So I'm going to adjust this to be an hour. Hold on. Come on, work with me here. I just got a Mac, so be patient with me. I was a PC girl for 37 years.
I'm glad you're on the right side.
I came on the right. And so now what I've just done is this white space that I've created. I can now take my distraction time or my 80% time and I can extend it. So I'm just laying the foundation to start, and then every day I'm going in, or every week I'm going in and adjusting it based on what my to-do list looks like. What happens though is we make our calendars our to-do list. Our calendar should not be our to-do list. Our to-do list is something we keep in a notebook. Our calendar is something that helps us identify the 20% that we need to do.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Yes, that was very helpful. Thank you.
Now, I'm going to make it a little less, I'm going to underwhelm it a little bit. I'm going to go back. Hold on. Why is mine? I'm going to go back. Can you guys see that? Can you see March of last year?
Yes.
Okay. You see what my calendar looked like then? It looks a little bit different, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If we go back to January, it looks a little bit different. If we go back to December of the year before, it looks a little bit different. If we go all the way back to April of 2016, it's blank. It's pretty much blank. So I didn't get from here to here overnight. The way that I got to today, and I'm going to stop sharing this for a minute so I can see your beautiful faces, was that in the beginning, I put every single thing on my calendar. I time blocked going to the bathroom. I time blocked eating lunch. Like, I didn't know what to do next unless I went to my calendar. So what it did was it got me used to going to my calendar, because my mentors have taught me that if it's not on my calendar, it does not exist. So do you know what I can do today? My mother house sits for me. So today I had to book some travel. I went in, I just invited her to my calendar entry for my trip so she knows when I'm going. Everyone in my life knows that I function off my calendar. If you're not on my calendar, sorry, it's probably not gonna happen. Now, a couple tips. Be purposeful with what you list on your calendar. Remember, don't be entrepreneurial. Entrepreneurial is going to be, you notice how I didn't have you time block every little thing you do for your 80%? Notice how we just did one block for your 80%? Because if you blocked all of your 80%, it would be overwhelming, right? We only block specific time for our 20% items. For our 80% items, we just block 80% time. Be thoughtful about what activities that you're blocking when. If something requires major focus, don't do it at the busiest time of the day when the kids are running around and it's after school. Do that in the morning when it's quiet and you're focused. Be diligent about not allowing anything to steal time that you have dedicated to activities on your calendar. The number one rule in time blocking, aside from doing it and following it, is if you erase, you must replace. Easy enough, right? So what do I mean by that? I mean that if I go back to my training calendar, I mean that if I decide that I'm not going to lead generate today for 3 hours and I only do an hour and a half, I have to find somewhere else on my calendar to make up that hour and a half of lead gen that I didn't do. So let's say I'm supposed to do 3 hours of lead gen and somebody comes in and I have to go to the doctor, right? Well, I just lost an hour of lead gen. So I need to go over and I need to maybe not have a lunch, or I might need to take my free time here and I might need to lead gen during my free time. Simply erasing and replacing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. And then be consistent enough to set the habit. Guys, it's going to be overwhelming at first. It's going to be daunting. It's going to be a pain in the you-know-what. And over time, I promise you, I would bet my entire career and life on it, that when you can master this, you are going to be giving yourself time back, you're going to accomplish your goals, and you're not going to feel like at the end of the week that you're a helicopter that's just been spinning its top all week and not gone anywhere.
What was your life like when you started doing this with the people around you that say are not? How did they react to, I got to get on Brindley's calendar to talk to her?
Yeah, so I think what they were grateful, because by getting on my calendar, they knew that when I got to them, I was present, I was attentive, they were getting all of me. My head wasn't somewhere else, my mind wasn't somewhere else, we weren't going to be interrupted, right? Here's what happens is that we get caught in this unrealistic perception that everybody needs everything right now. And what that ends up doing is it's counterintuitive. It works against us, because by trying to be everything to all people at all times, we're actually nothing to anyone. So how do we do that, right? First and foremost, identify your unique abilities. Work in your strength zone. Know what you're good at. And leverage what you're not good at as quickly as possible.
You got a question, really?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
So
You're breaking up.
I don't know. I think it's my reception. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Now
Okay.
I can.
So how do you stay present? Like, I swear, I have a million things that go through my head in a day. And so even when I get to those things that need to be taken care of, I'm thinking about all the other million things.
So stop
like,
it.
How do you just, like, how, yeah, right, how?
I want you to do that. I want you to do this.
I mean, I
want you to do me a favor. I want you to Google Bob Newhart, Stop It. And I want you to watch that video.
Okay.
Here's the thing. You can keep living, and can I be a little fierce here with all you guys?
Yes, you can.
Right? What you focus on expands. Right? If we don't change the way we look at things, things won't change. I went from being a woman that had a committee. It was like a tribal council in my head. It never shut up. To having to tell myself, you're not going to break through that level, that ceiling of achievement and going to purposeful if you don't stop and start getting present and start getting purposeful in where you spend your time. I had to start telling people no. Did it suck? Yeah. Eventually, did they get used to it? Yep. And is it cool now? Absolutely. I tell people no all the time. I stopped being a yes person. And I've decided now that every yes has to be validated by 1,000 no's. I constantly am asking myself, if I say yes to this, what am I saying no to? Am I saying no to putting my kids to bed? Am I saying no to my dreams and my aspirations? Am I saying no to that spa day because I love my spa days? Like, what am I saying no to? Am I saying no to my self-care? Which if I don't take care of myself, it's the oxygen mask, right? I got to put it on me before I can put it on anybody else. So really, guys, everything in life is a choice. You can choose to run the race and run the rat race, or you can slow down, get purposeful, and start saying no. Now, how do I say no? Well, first of all, it's a complete sentence. No. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't. You don't. We feel like we have to explain things. I don't owe anybody an explanation. I'm allowed to say no. And guess what? Here's another thing. Here's a secret. You're also allowed to change your mind. Right? We're so afraid. It's sober decision making. Absolutely. Period. Right? Say no and don't feel like you have to explain yourself. Now, how do you say no nicely? Well, my mom always said, say what you mean what you say, just don't say it mean. Right? So you can say no by asking clarifying questions. So when someone says to you, they want you to do something, ask questions. Well, what does that look like? What does that mean? Right? If you need to say no, or you want to say no, you can do it politely and firm. No, that easy. No, I can't. Don't apologize. You didn't do anything wrong. How many times do we say, no, I'm sorry? What are you sorry for? They should be sorry for asking you. Right? Because most of the time, they're trying to put their stuff off on you. Will you watch my kids? Will you pick them up at school? Right? Will you do my laundry? No. But I love you. Right? Oh, and like my friend Ben Kenny says, just finish everything with a high five and it'll be all good. Be like, no, boom, we're good. Right?
That's good.
You don't have to justify your no. And then suggest alternatives, right? So when you say no, before you say I'm sorry, before you start to justify yourself, help them, give them some alternative suggestions. No, and you might try, never say but, no, and you might try the laundromat or Uber, right? And yes, practice saying no. And guys, it's really uncomfortable at first. You feel like you're putting people out and you feel like you're you know what that starts with a B and it's a female dog. Like you feel like that. And the truth of the matter is that it gets more comfortable and people start respecting you for saying no. Because is it worse to say no or is it worse to say yes and then not follow through with the commitment because you get overwhelmed? And now that person's dependent on you because you said yes. And now they're left out because you can't honor the commitment because you said yes to too many things. Because every time you say yes, you're saying no to something else. And every time you say no, you're saying yes to something else. So constantly be asking yourself, by saying yes, what am I saying no to? And by saying no, what am I saying yes to? By saying no, you might be able to be saying yes to your kids, to your dreams of starting that real estate company. We have to be willing to say no if we want to get where we want to go.
Wow. That was awesome. And I'm telling you, I think you're saying a lot of what we really needed to hear. Really, truly.
Guys, the only thing standing in the way of you getting through that ceiling of achievement is, guess what? You. Do you want to have the habits of a highly successful person, or do you want to stay where you're at? Or running the rat race every day? Did you also notice that the only days that are full on my calendar are 3 days a week? I have full control of Thursday and Friday. I can do whatever I want. And I have 2 businesses. I'm highly leveraged and I'm very protective with my time. Hands down.
How did you get highly leveraged?
I got leverage as soon as I can in the form of anything it would look like. I even have someone that comes and picks up my dog poop in the backyard. I mean, I'm serious. Like, I didn't always have that, and that makes me sound a little high pretentious. I use that as an example because even the smallest thing like that If it is, if I can pay, if it is not worth my hourly rate, I don't do it. When my hourly rate was $15, I didn't clean my house because I could get someone to do it for 10. I made more money doing what I was doing in business than I did cleaning my house. So I paid someone to clean my house. You follow me? Mm-hmm. It's what's your time worth? What's your hourly rate? And the more that you honor that, your hourly rate starts going up so that you can leverage more. Right?
Yeah.
So here's what my leverage looks like today. Somebody came to my house today and washed my car because is my hourly rate, am I going to make more money being on the phone or am I going to make more money get in my car, driving to the car wash, sitting in the car wash? No. I paid somebody to come here and do it because I needed to be working because I make more money doing that. It costs me money if I go out. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Girls, you're looking at somebody that couldn't pay her rent 5 years ago. I have a housekeeper. I have a lawn person. I would literally have some, never mind. We'll keep that off recording. Like I would have someone do everything in my life that didn't allow me to do what I'm passionate about. And what I'm passionate about is helping other people and inspiring and motivating them to live their life to the fullest potential that they have. Not scrubbing my floors. And if you can get your family to do it and they do it for free, like my mom, my house is nicer, so she comes and stays in my house when I travel and it's free. I don't have to pay someone to take care of my dogs. It's great. Free leverage is the best. And there is free leverage out there. You have interns. You guys all have teenagers and college kids in your area. They will come do things for you for free to learn. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Okay. I get really passionate about that because I think people think, well, I can't afford it. Then figure out how to get it for free. Hustle. Right?
You preaching.
Yeah, sorry. I just get real passionate. I do.
This is good. This is what we need to hear because everybody has so much in them. And it's these little small things that mess up everything.
So a couple recommendations I would make is pick one motivational video that really like gets you fired up, makes you crazy. Like for mine, I put in best motivational videos into YouTube and it's the first one that pops up. It's called Unbroken. Mm-hmm. I think it's like Denzel or someone in the background. And I played that every single morning before I even started my day. Mm-hmm. Pray, meditate, and read some type of spiritual, I don't care if you're Allah, God, whatever. Read some type of spiritual reading every morning that gets you centered to start your day. You can meditate. If you don't meditate, at least get quiet for 5 minutes to calm those thoughts, to calm that committee in the morning. I follow my God, and prayer is me speaking to him. Meditation is him speaking to me. So it's important that you take and you have that routine in the morning to get your day started. That's number one. Number two, quickly go identify your 80-20. Those money-making, generating activities that are going to yield 80% of your results, and focus there first. Get that stuff done first. And then go figure out what your hourly rate is or what you want your hourly rate to be and eliminate anything in your life that costs less than that and go pay someone to do it because you're still making a higher profit margin. For instance, if your hourly rate is $25 an hour and someone will clean your house for $10 an hour, are you still making $15 an hour? Yeah. But if you clean the house, how much are you losing? 25. Alexa just reminded me to take out the trash. That's how leveraged I am. Like Alexa just told me that I need to remember to take out the trash can. You hear? Yeah. I have robots. I love robots. Alexa's my best friend. I travel with her.
That's awesome.
She wakes me up every morning and turns my lights on and says, "Good morning, sunshine."
I love it. I love it. So I cannot thank you enough. I want to ask anybody, do you have any questions? I feel like you've given us so much.
Sorry, I just like went back.
No. You were right in there. You were right up in our Kool-Aid where we need.
I was. Hey guys, listen, get my information, reach out to me on Facebook, email me. I'm always here. Just be patient with me. I am very, protective of my time, so it might take me a couple days and we'll get you on the schedule at some point. But I'd love to talk with you guys. If I can do anything to help, please don't be afraid to reach out.
Well, we will definitely do that. And thank you for being in the group. Thank you for taking this time. And like I said, if anybody has any question, Brindley is in the group. So if you have a question for her, tag her in it. She's very awesome. And I just
listen, use this group, right? Like I have 4 coaches. When I got to a point where I could afford it, like my growth has been because the people that I've surrounded myself with. Right. I never want to be the smartest person in the room. And I'm the sum of the 5 people that I spend the most time with. And one day I looked up and I realized that I was more worried about everybody else liking me that I never asked myself if I liked them. And when I started hanging out and surrounding myself with people that were where I wanted to be, my whole life started changing. And until then, I found accountability in my friends and other people. So use this group, ask each other, share your calendars with each other, hold each other accountable, use each other as accountability partners, because the one thing is that you can set goals all day long. You can map out any plan you want. If you don't have some type of accountability in place, you won't hit it.
Mm-hmm. What was the speaker for Stop It, Brindley?
Oh, Bob Newhart. It was a show back in like the 80s. So type in Bob Newhart Stop It video. And it's him, he's a therapist in a room with a girl, and you'll get it once you watch it. Okay, Ashley Sturgis says she wants an accountability partner, so who's gonna step up and be her accountability partner? Ashley, you email me and I'll be your accountability partner. You just got a free accountability partner that people pay a lot of money for because no one else stepped up.
Awesome.
All right. Any other questions?
All right, this is good. Brindley, thank you so much. I will send you.
I hope it was helpful.
No, this was. I'm actually gonna. I was gonna wait to post it. I'm gonna post it because everybody needs to hear it. I'm gonna just go ahead and post it so everybody can hear it. I will post it tomorrow. I will share the link with you. And ladies, just stay tuned. There's so many things coming in the group. And I try to have people here that I know are going to help you take your business, your life to the next level. Because sometimes you need somebody that is a step ahead of you to really show you how far ahead you can go. So thank you so much, Brindley.
Yeah, and if you message me, I'll get you in touch with some people that I think would add great value to the group and would do this for you.
Okay, awesome. I will.
Awesome. All right. Bye, ladies. Good luck. Time block next week. Monday. Perfect time to start. Get it done this weekend. If you want to share your calendars or with me, just go ahead and email it or post it in the group.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.